Waajeed, welcome to Serato Unscripted. Thank you for coming on the show today.
What up, though, brother? Good to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Where are we getting you from right now? You're in Detroit?
Yeah. I'm here in the D. I've been here pretty much since COVID started. So yeah, I've been where I've always wanted to be. Even when I was on the road, I was dreaming about being here in the studio. So yeah, this is it.
Nice. Are you working on music right now? While you're in lockdown?
I'm constantly working on music. It's there's never a space where I'm not working on music, even if I'm not working on music. So it's like I'm thinking about it if I'm not physically making it, and yeah. So yeah, I'm always working on stuff. Totally.
Awesome. So yeah, first of all, I just want to say thank you for agreeing to be a guest on this show today. Um, and I want to let you know the first time I heard of you was through the Bling 47 series of records which you did. That was a website you ran. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a website that I created out of wanting to consolidate the Detroit hip hop community, and not just the hip hop community, but the entire music community, as well as present an opportunity to show ourselves and showcase ourselves to the world. So I guess it worked.
Yeah, it definitely worked for me. And then the second thing I knew of you was actually a record that you did for but with as part of Platinum Pied Pipers,
Yeah.
specifically the 12-inch for Riding High. Um,
Yeah.
it's a jam, one of my favorite jams. I played that all the time, and I'd love to hear about how you started, how the Platinum Pied Pipers project came together.
Well, the Platinum Pied Pipers project, PPP, came about. It had to be 2003. 2003. By this point, I had started Bling 47, which was, the global community that we just spoke about, or the Detroit community that we just spoke about. And I had started to release records. Some of the first records we released were Dilla instrumentals and some of my instrumentals, and there was a ton of projects that we had uh, lined up to come out. And I wanted I wanted more hands-on experience in releasing independent music, so I decided that I would get an independent record deal as almost like a course of learning, a hands-on course of learning about how to release independent records. And yeah, it came about really strangely where there were some breakbeat records that I had actually bought these records in Philly when we had Dylan and myself had went to go meet Jazzy Jeff,
No
and there
way.
was a record store there. It was a really really fantastic record store there that I cannot think of the name of, and I bought some breaks there, and I came back home and I wanted to find the rest of the breaks that were available, and they weren't in the record store. And lo and behold, on the records that I bought in Philly, there was a number on the label, and I called the number. And yeah, I was calling the number, and I left a message that's to say like this shit is whack. I ain't got no records in the D. Like we killing it right now. I mean, I think I must have said something like that. Something arrogant and totally stupid. And somebody from the label called me back, and they were like, "Well, we would love to get some records in Detroit, and like we're big fans of what's happening over there. And by the way, who are you?" And yeah, that's what started my relationship with Ubiquity Records, where we ultimately did the Riding High 12-inch one.
I'm riding high, I'm riding high on the highway. Riding high, and I'm riding high. No, I can't feel my body. Riding high. Said I'm riding high. There's a
And you
bump.
worked with other musicians in that project too. Is that correct?
Yeah, originally, I mean, it's no secret now that it was myself and Dwelle that started Platinum Pied Pipers. At the time, he was signed to Virgin Records, so we couldn't use his name. So
Ah,
we name around backwards, which spelled Elude.
ah.
Right.
I don't know that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So it was myself and Dwelle, and then once Dwelle, basically when I signed the deal with Ubiquity to do Riding High, which features Elude or Dwelle's voice on it, um, the record caught fire, but so did Dwelle's career.
Right.
So Dwelle, went to go do what Dwelle was doing, and I decided to continue on. So at that point, what I thought I was doing, what I wanted to do is I wanted to just bring in a band to support the actual music itself. And yeah, that's how I brought Sadiq into the team, and then I brought Tiambe and Invincible, and like the remaining of the cast of Georgia and Muldrow. You know what I mean? Like I brought all these people in to kind of fill in the parts or use it as a rotating assembly.
Wow. I mean, that's such a stacked lineup. I mean, just the people you just mentioned there, Sadiq, Georgia, and Muldrow, and man, you got some amazing talents. Tiambe Lockhart, they're all so prolific and have made such amazing music as well. It's a rare
Yeah,
opportunity to have so many great people in a group.
I mean, it was but it came at a great cost because I had to ultimately, because I was connected in the music business and I was in my circle with Dilla and Dwelle, and having access to almost all the soulful singers. The label basically said, "Man, why don't you go get some of those people?" You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, "Nah, like this is the next. Like these are the people that we should have." And I fought for it, and they bought into it, and some of those people are legends in my opinion.
Yeah. Did you have much to do with Dwelle and on his first record, the Rise record? Did you do a lot of production on that, or?
No, I didn't do any production, but I executive produced the record.
Okay.
I helped. Yeah, like I did the artwork, I did the photography for the album. I did the design for the artwork. Uh, I helped the album get printed. Like I did all the work in terms of the label work, and also helped with some distribution. Yeah.
Wow. That's brings me to a question I was going to ask a little bit later, but it seems like a perfect time to ask it right now. I mean, you've contributed, a lot of designing work, specifically, from what I understand, the Fantastic Volume 2 record and the whole project of that. You designed the whole album as well, and you had a big part. You were a big part of the Slum Village family. That's correct?
Yeah, absolutely correct. Yeah, that's like between Dwelle and Dilla and Slum Village, the whole crew, like yeah, those are my teammates. Like, I had no idea, or I had no idea what the fuck I was doing really. You know what I mean? I'll be the first to say it, just in terms of being a record producer, or to be an exec. I didn't even know it was the name for that job. It was more just like, how do we get this thing done? How do we figure it out? How do we put ourselves where we're in a position to have ownership, and and how do we small scale change? That was my larger kind of focus, and whatever the job took. You know what I mean? So with Dwelle, it was assisting him with what he needed, and ultimately him returning that favor back and putting that into PPP for me.
Mm.
But Slum Village, it was a lot more personal. You know what I mean? Because those were my closest friends at the time, and yeah, it was just more about like Dilla at that particular time. I mean, he was producing for everybody. You know what I mean? Like I think this was, I don't even remember what year it was, but it was the year that he was like it was before the UMA got started,
Okay.
and he was producing for everybody. So he was good in terms of money, and being able to, survive and being able to make means for himself. But, the rest of the team, it wasn't so much.
Right.
I was in my, I guess my first year of college where I won a full scholarship. So, I was pretty good financially. And, yeah, the rest of the team weren't doing so great. So, I had this idea. It's just like, listen, man, like, let's take all of these songs that everybody is playing every weekend, that House Shoes is playing every Friday night, at St. Andrews. Let's take all of these songs and put them in a bundle and sell this product. And later on, it came to be defined as some Fantastic Volume 1.
Wow. And was that the kind of the just before Bling 47, or was Bling 47 an extension of that desire to get the music of your friends out?
That was prior to Blink 47. So yeah, it's like that was well before. Yeah, one, I even knew that there was an industry to be a part of, and then two, before I even know that there was a community that the world was looking at.
Yeah.
The Blink 47 was a result of putting together Volume One, that's Fantastic Volume One coming out on a small independent label in Europe, and then largely going to tour to support that album. That's when I saw like, wow, people really give a fuck about what we're doing. You know what I mean? So we need to make sure that we give them, how that we show them how we see ourselves, and that how we, like how we want to be seen.
Totally. It's interesting. You said you had a scholarship. And it kind of one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, did you get into music or photography first? Which one was the first passion?
Music was first.
Okay. And
Music was before Slum Village was formed, and I formed with Slum Village, and we became Slum Village. I had a group with about 10 of Slum Village,
okay.
and we had a group called H2O, Hard to Oppose. And so yeah, that was I mean, we started that as early as eighth or ninth grade.
Oh wow.
So by the time that we became high school students, that's when we formed with different people in the neighborhood and eventually became Slum Village. So yeah, it was so art was first. I mean, I'm sorry, music was first, and then in high school I kind of developed my focus on art, and eventually I won a full scholarship to go to, at the time it was called Center for Creative Studies, which was one of the premier schools that you would go to for industrial design, which ultimately means design cars.
Oh,
So
okay.
I went to school as a car designer,
Wow.
won a full scholarship to learn how to design cars and products, shoes, bikes, everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Side note, I gotta ask you, what's your favorite car? I mean, just being from Detroit, I feel like I have to ask you that question. What's your favorite
Wow.
design car?
I probably shouldn't answer that question because I am in Detroit, but I will say that, I'm a big fan of muscle cars, particularly.
Yeah.
Not what they do for the world, but what they do aesthetically,
Yeah.
just in terms of what they represent, in terms of the times that they were created in. So yeah, muscle cars, Chargers, SS, you know what I mean? Anything old and boxy, I'm a big fan of.
It's amazing to hear. Industrial design is like, obviously, it's such a wide scope of things that you can do, like you were saying. But yeah, of course, cars. I can't believe I didn't think of that. Being such a big part of the history of Detroit.
Yeah, at that time they were scouting high school students to be able to invest themselves inside of Center for Creative Studies, and then largely progress and eventually become, like the people who were designing the latest and the greatest.
Yeah.
And that's where they pulled me in. They pulled me in at 16. Like
Wow.
I started winning scholarships, and eventually a full scholarship, and eventually leaving school to become a musician.
So, have you seen that? I watched this movie recently. It's about John DeLorean. I think it was on Netflix or something. It was very interesting though. But have you heard about his career as a car designer?
Very little. I don't know much, but I know he was an outsider in terms of the whole thing. So he kind of created his own wave.
Yeah, man. It was a really amazing documentary. It was redone, but I ended up just going on Wikipedia and googling this guy's life story, and I tell you what, man, it's a fascinating story. That guy, I mean, the fact that he had obviously a hugely successful career in the automotive industry, but then his car, the DeLorean, obviously went Back to the Future and everything, met a terrible fate, and the whole story around that is incredibly fascinating. But yeah, just hearing his story, I highly recommend checking it out. It's really
Sure.
interesting.
I'll
Yeah.
check that out, but I can kind of assume what happened inside of the story. I mean, like the car game is the big three is pretty gangster in terms of, what I mean? Like Detroit is one of the only cities that does not have a subway, you know what I mean? And
Right.
that is invested in transit and does not have a subway. And that's a result of the big three and their gangsters. So I can assume what happened to John DeLorean.
No doubt. Yeah. Actually, I'll go also on a bit of a tangent here, but There's another interesting part of industry in Detroit that I'm fascinated by, and it was from a Gil Scott-Heron song, "We Almost Lost Detroit," where they talk about a nuclear meltdown that happened very close to the city of Detroit. Were you around for that? Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that very much. My parents probably shielded me away from the information surrounding that to avoid panic.
Yeah.
But I'm familiar with the song, and I have some knowledge of it, but not a ton.
Yeah, it's fascinating that I mean, obviously in this modern time we're in, everything we need power and everything, and it was fascinating to learn about the fact that America had a very close call with the nuclear, meltdown before Russia and Chernobyl, of course, which we all know is the massive meltdown. But also coincidentally has a TV series made around it, which is terrible, by the way. It's very
Yeah, that was pretty dark.
right.
That was pretty dark. You know what I mean? It's like watching a movie about the Titanic. Like, I know how this ends up. You know what I mean? I'm just watching, like, I'm just watching things progressively get worse.
Exactly. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's a quite a sad story, but it sounds like they didn't lose Detroit, which is why I guess the song was titled such.
Knock, knock on wood.
Yeah. Um, but anyways, getting back to the music, I'm interested also hearing in the group that you had H2O with Batin. What was your role? Were you writing lyrics, or were you producing beats? What was the original role that you had there?
Yeah, my role with H2O was producer DJ.
Okay, so you've always been a DJ. It's been from the get go.
Yeah, from the very top. Yeah, it's like I was very clear about what I wanted to do inside of the group and how I wanted it to look, and I was even making logos for our group at that time.
And then I heard a story about you getting into production with an MPC. It was a broken MPC. Is that right?
Yeah, there was so I mean things went really quickly after Fantastic Volume One came out. That's the one I was a part of. So Fantastic Volume One came out. We did a small amount of cassettes that were only available pretty much locally, and I even kept the books on that. I did all the accounting. So the manufacturing of that small album here, or a small cassette here, eventually went out, and people heard about it, and people were buying it, and people were bootlegging it, et cetera, et cetera. Slum got a small record deal from Europe, and then eventually they got like a larger deal, which is where they decided to call Fantastic One Fantastic Two, which was basically a copy of everything that was on the new album with additions of Busta Rhymes and, like everybody else that was, what Jazzy Jeff was added to a song, or, you know what I'm saying? But the basic skeleton was created in Fantastic Volume One. And at this time I was still in college as well, you know what I mean? So yeah, on my weekends or when it was summer, like I spent a lot of time with Dilla in his basement, and he was making so much money at that time, you know what I mean? Like there was tons of equipment in his basement that just sat there. And
Wow.
one of these drum machines was an MPC 2000. And every time that we would go shopping, record shopping on the weekends, you know what I mean? Like I would come back and see this lonely little drum machine in the corner. And another weekend passed, and another weekend passed, and it's months and months of this thing just sitting in the corner. And eventually, it wasn't in the corner, and I asked about it. Not that I had any ideas or like any like real motivation to even think about making music, but he explained. He said to me that Questlove had broken this drum machine or something like that, and I think he fell asleep on it or something, or he hit a button too hard, and the disc had gotten stuck inside of it.
Ah.
And at this time in school, I was taking a metalsmithing class, and I was pretty handy with the tweezers, you know what I mean? Because that's part of, you know what I'm saying, like, cutting the solder, and then it's like, so I was ill with the 10 fingers, you know what I mean? And so I was like, yeah, well, if I get this disc out, can I take it home? It's like, sure. Just a natural reaction, like, whatever. Yeah, fine. Yeah, okay. You'll never get it out, but fine. Within 30 seconds, man, I had this thing out. I had it out of there. I had taken it apart, dismantled it, blah 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 blah. Got this thing out. And he's just like, oh wow, like man, like you pretty serious. Do you really want to make some beats? You know? And that's what struck my interest. You know what I mean? Like if you say no, you know what I mean? Like if you challenge me on that level, I'm gonna be like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, well, yeah, sure. I want to take it home. Yeah. Yeah, I'll take it home. I'll make some beats. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And I had collected the records, you know what I mean? And, you know, like I had past knowledge of knowing how to make music. And it just took that dare to push me in a position where it's just like, I'm going to try this thing. And I did. And the rest is history.
I'm so glad you did.
Well, I am too. I tell you what, I am. But I'm excited that he challenged me that day.
No doubt. Speaking of making music, you've made a lot of great records recently as well. A couple of my favorites, "Make It Boom," which I was very very lucky to have received that from you. So thank you very much for that. And
Absolutely.
then more recently, the Shango EP, which are, in my opinion, all really really interesting takes, modern takes on dance music with a certain kind of a, if I may, hip hop approach. Can you kind of tell me how you arrived to the sound, or that you've developed that way? You know, I think it's super unique.
Well, I'll start by saying that thank you for the compliment in terms of it having an original thumbprint inside of the genre, because that's always really important. For me, is to not, is to add to the links in the chain and not just replicate, what's already been done. And to answer your question, dance music has always been uh, in the core of my being, I would say. You know what I mean? Like hip hop is an acquired language for Detroiters, in my opinion. It's something that we have to at that particular time when we came up, it was something that we had to seek out. We had to go and look for, besides the commercial stuff that was coming in and, like the obvious stuff, like we had to make a real effort to go out and find, these groups that had like these idiosyncrasies that just made them very new and fresh. So that was always, so we had to acquire that language, but the language of dance is something that we've been born and raised with, which partially brings me to the space that I'm at now. You know what I mean? Like I've between hip hop and soul music, I've always been great fans of, and like I've always had so much admiration and respect for those genres, but it's not my legacy. If you was born in Queens, in New York, you can say that hip hop is your legacy. It's your legacy. It was born in your borough. You know what I mean? Like it was developed by your people. You know what I mean? Like and it's your natural language. You know what I mean? So with that being said, Detroit has many native languages, but I consider techno and dance music to be the primary.
Yeah, I'd say that most people probably know Detroit for that too, right?
Yeah, I mean between cars and like techno and
Yeah.
high murder rates, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what people that's what people say about us, primarily.
That's an interesting question for me though about techno and hip hop. I mean, growing up, I hate to say, but there was always a bit of tension between the house and techno fans and hip hop fans. It was almost a divide, and I've talked to a lot of people about it because it's a fascinating thing to me. Did you always like both, or was there ever a time where you felt like you had to choose a side or
Yeah,
subscribe to one or the other?
absolutely. I felt like I totally had to choose a side.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's like just the nature of like the kind of the energy that kind of comes with hip hop, as opposed to an energy that kind of comes from dance and house music. Like dance and house music is activism, just in its nature. You know what I'm saying? It involves inclusivity. It involves, what I mean, like tapping into something it involves a heightened sense of community, you know, as opposed to hip hop, which is considered to be more hyper masculine and combative, you know what I mean? And, you know, if you got the top spot, then I want to pull you down from the top spot. Not to say that dance music is not that at all, but, you know what I mean? But it is, in spirit, it's born out of a different space. You know what I'm saying? It's born out of, it has a different core, it has a different a construct to some degree. So yeah, I was always forced to make a choice. It was always like, okay, are you gonna play hip hop at this party? Yeah, or are you gonna play dance music at this party? You know what I mean? Even in my days of coming up at 3 floors of Fun, which is the shelter, which is where house shoes played. Hip hop was here on one floor, and house was on another floor. So it's symbolic just in terms of like, well, what floor are you going to be on tonight? You know what I mean? As opposed to going back and forth between the two.
Yeah, it's always kind of crazy to me because they're born out of such similar foundations, you know. I mean, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it's especially, you know, as somebody who makes music that is very informed by hip hop aesthetics. Do you feel like there's a bit more acceptance within the house community and techno community, and vice versa within the hip hop community for those sounds?
You know what? I'd like to say yes, but maybe it's not. You know, maybe my level of tolerance and understanding and just hope for humanity is different than where it really is. You know what I mean? Or I don't know. I would like to say yes, but you know, if I had to judge it by, you know, like conversations with a lot of young people in this particular city that I have, you know, like they don't know shit about. You know, they think it's a European invention, you know, in terms of dance music. You know, and even, you know, like being in Chicago the last time I DJ'd there, you know what I mean? Like I played, I mean, these are like hometown anthems, you know what I mean? Like joints that were born and raised out of Chicago, you know what I mean? And they look at you like, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? So it's like, so you know, I don't know. I mean, I can't say, but I do hope that there's a brighter side to that, and just in terms of like younger people and their acceptance of things that are different, and their level of inclusivity and their levels of understanding of genreless music. You know, like that's the core reason of why I kind of started what I started in terms of Blink 47, and that's always been uh, a core of my career, which was just to create music that had no genres, that had no limitations, that it's just, it's, you know, it's good music or it's bad music. You know, it's like, you know, it's either or. Either you get it or you don't, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like there's definitely a couple of artists that I can think of that come to mind that are really breaking that barrier down. People like Channel Trez or Channel Trey. K Tronada is another example of somebody who's really, you know, makes amazing hip hop, but also makes this kind of hybrid house dance music. And even Jared Jackson or Lakim from, you know, LA, they've got this real amazing approach to making house or, you know, dance music that's super informed, similar to you as from a hip hop side, which is really amazing.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm glad that those people are doing what they do. You know what I mean? But you know, like I think very much like anything else, you know what I'm saying, it's important that you realize that, you know, that in order to get to this space, there's this much work. You know what I mean? And I would say that, you know, like that's why it's important for me constantly to pay acknowledgement to my ancestors and people that have put in the work, because, you know, like the place that I stand from in this level of privilege that I have, you know, it's not a result of my own work. And yeah, it's important to remember that. So yeah, again, I'm glad that those dudes are like, or those people are in that space. You know what I mean? And I just hope they keep pushing. You know what I mean? Like, let's keep it pushing. Like, let's push it into spaces that we aren't now. You know, and establish greater levels of understanding on every and all of it.
Speaking of which, I'd love to hear some of the Seminal Detroit songs that you're talking about, and especially that influenced you, but are like anthems in Detroit that are really important to the city and culture of the city?
Yeah, I mean, there's too many to name. There's too many.
Can you give us like a top two or three that come to
Sure.
mind?
I would say one pivotal song is made by Mad Mike Banks. Timeline. That's the name of the track. Oh, pivotal. You know what I mean? Like, this record was similar to like Jill Scott's record. Like you would hear like the thugs playing it. You know what I'm saying? You would hear the gangsters playing it, all the way to, you know what I'm saying, like it being played at block parties. You know what I mean? For like older folks. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, Timeline was one of those tunes.
That's
You know,
Mad Mike from Underground Resistance, right?
yeah, correct. Under the name of the group is Timeline, and the name of the track is called Timeline.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was one of those tunes that, it was your go-to Michael Jackson tune in Detroit, where if everything else is failing miserably, that's the one that you play to kind of regroup everybody's attention. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's just one. You know what I mean? Like there's so many, like The Look of Love for Slum Village is one of those ones that, you know what I mean? Like it's just like fail safe, like really like it touched the heartstrings of many people. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's too many to name.
Is that was J88? Was that before that was Slum Village?
Yeah. Well, they created J88 to avoid legal pursuits.
Ah.
They created it as an offshoot name for a group so that they could continue to put music out while they were under another band. So they were under Slum Village here, but they put out J88 here in order to be, or 788. Well, I forget what they called it, but they did that to keep themselves away from a legal bond.
Okay.
I shouldn't be saying this shit, but I don't.
We can edit that.
No, it's fine. Say it. Well, good. I'm good for it. I can hold it.
Okay. Is there one more that you can think of?
There's a track that you may not have heard about, but it was a very, very pivotal record for me. Carpet People. Theo Parrish.
Also from Detroit, right?
Yeah. Well, I think Theo's from Chicago.
Okay,
I'm not sure where Theo's born, but I mean he's considered one of our own. But yeah, it's the record's called Carpet People, and again, it's one of those records that fit that fine line somewhere between dance and like hip hop or down tempo stuff. You know what I mean? So those are always the records for me that were really pivotal, or like those are the records that matter to me. The records that could get you from one space to another space. Those records that could help you transcend between genres and kind of be nameless in between. The records that are 110 and like the record I remixed for you. Right. So it's like the records that are 110 and the records that are 115, 105, you know what I mean? Like the shit in between.
The sweet spot.
The sweet spot. I consider that the sweet spot. Yeah, those are the propelling. That's before you propel.
Amen.
Yeah.
There's actually one other song I just want to ask you about because I'm pretty sure it's a Detroit record, but Number of Names, Charivari.
Oh yeah, that's a Detroit record, sure.
Yeah, that's like a prototype techno record. That was one of the first things that kind of defined that, right? And that's can you tell me about your relation with that record?
Yeah, the very first time I heard a Number of Names was on the New Dance Show, or it might have been the Scene at the time, because it was the Scene first, and then it grew into the New Dance Show. So I think it was the Scene. The Scene used to come on at 6 o'clock every day on channel 62, and it was a place that you could tune into, and you would see middle class black people. You know what I'm saying? There was some couple white folks in there. You know what I mean? Like there was some like brown people up in there. You know what I mean? But generally, it was primarily black people, middle class black folks dancing to techno. Not Detroit techno as they try to put this shit on it. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not Detroit. It's techno. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, like they would be dancing to Juan Atkins, and there was one particular time I remember it very vivid. A woman dancing to a number of names, and it's just the wildest shit to hear people dance, to see people that look like you. There was a woman on there that was a school teacher. There was a dude that came on there occasionally that was my neighbor.
Wow.
And like these were just like people from the neighborhood that went to go dance to like this music that was incredibly futuristic and incredibly black. You know what I mean? And the way that the DJ was doing it, I think it was I can't think of the DJ's name, but the way it was done, man, it was just flawless. You know what I mean? And there was, so just based on that, there's no way in fucking hell I couldn't make dance music. There's no way that you can see that you can witness that every day, you know what I'm saying, 5 times a week, and not replicate that in some way.
Yeah.
Almost impossible.
That brings me to this I guess a question about the Detroit influence on the world of music. I mean, it's well known in some circles. I feel like this conversation we're having is a good example of that. That we understand that it's the birthplace of techno. That's where it came from. But I think a lot of people often assume it came from Germany or other parts of Europe. Do you think that there's a part of cultural erasing going on there, or what is that?
I mean, it's white supremacy at its finest.
Right.
Supremacy at its finest. Like when you have these genres of music that were born, house and techno, born in black cities, and like you're in a space now where it's predominantly being played in places that look nothing like it, that don't reflect it at all, and it's like that music didn't come from them. How could it come from them? Look at what they're doing, right? You know what I'm saying? Like all this crime wave and all of this media bullshit that happens with Detroit and Chicago, and to make it look like we're the worst place on the earth. And, and it makes people afraid. And how could this place of fear create this place of beauty? You know what I mean? And, the response for a lot of people is that, yeah, well, it came from Europe. It's a way to erase the cultural legacy that, what I'm saying, that the music entitles itself to. So yeah, it's just white supremacy at its finest, you know what I mean? Which is no great surprise to me, you know what I mean? But it's just like, us. I mean, I know the truth. I bear witness to it. I saw it in its infancy, and I see it where it is now.
Yeah. It's very sad to hear that. I've been to Detroit a couple of times, and I've seen you there, and it's such an amazing city. It's such a beautiful city, and the people are so nice, and I've always felt very safe. I've always felt very welcomed there, and I feel like that's one of the saddest things, is that people have this negative idea of such a beautiful city. It's a fascinating place, and there's obviously such a a lot of cultural ruin that you see there as well. Obviously, there's been a departure of a lot of people, but at the core, it's still got a lot of love, and I just don't. I feel like that's such a shame. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways.
It is a shame, and it's sad, but in so many ways, it's a benefit because it keeps dumbasses out of here. You know what I mean? It's people that like I probably shouldn't say it, but I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, it puts me in a position where what I'm saying, like the news and the world has painted these really, really, fucked up pictures, and to note that to some degree, like some of it, there's some truth in there somehow, that it is tough and that it is complicated, and that there are, there's a learning curve, and there's pros and cons, but yeah, but for the large part, like there are a lot of people that don't come here because they believe that shit.
Right.
So those are the people I just don't have to be bothered with. You know what I mean? Like I just don't have to ask questions. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to answer questions from those people. I don't have to engage with them. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you get it, you get it. You know what I mean? Like it's very much like Detroit music.
Yeah.
Like if you get it and you connect to it, then it's yours to have. You can benefit from it. You know, like you can become a better listener or a better DJ or a better producer. You know, based off being a part of it. But you know, if you don't get it, that's your fucking loss, man. You know what I mean? Like
Straight up.
so it's like, you know, you either spend you as a Detroit based black artist, an adult male like myself. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I'm tired. I'm at a space where, you know, like I'm kind of bored with stopping my conversation to have to explain to people like, no, we don't kill each other. You know, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, come on, man. Like that's not a real thing. That's a cops episode. That's not real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not
It's
not to say that there's not issues in terms of Chicago and Detroit, and there's not things that need to be dealt with. It's just not. It's just not. It's not crazy. It's not even that bad.
no. That's what I mean. I've always felt very comfortable and safe there, and I'm originally from New Zealand. You know, I have no
Yeah.
touch point for it. But one of the things I also think is really interesting about Detroit and especially the black community from Detroit and technology is the innovations that have been created and pioneered not just with techno but in technology and the world of music time and time again. And I think of really important touch points like DJ Pierre and the 303, the use of drum machines like the 808 and 909 as being of pieces of equipment that were not really created for the purposes that they became known for, but became hugely popular because of genres that came from Detroit.
Yeah.
I'd really be interested in getting your take on that, especially since someone like yourself who's done industrial design, you've always had a relationship with technology. What's your
Well,
take
I
on
mean,
that?
there are benefits to being, the last people that people expect something from. There's a benefit to being at the end of the earth, like you are, like New Zealand is considered to be. People just don't fucking pay attention. You know what I mean? So it's like when you come up and you do something great, it's like, it's very much like white supremacy. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a black person, I've had to watch white supremacy my entire life. You know what I mean? But what white supremacy does for those people is that they don't even see me. They don't even see me coming. They don't see the innovations that I have. They don't see the fact that I may be smarter or I may be more advanced in terms of many things than they are. So that's the benefit of being in a place that's slept on. You know what I mean? It's that you can make those innovations quietly. You can figure them out in your own time. You can figure those ideas out in your own space. You can make those things on very long winters and then reveal it to the world. And then the world's like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting that to come from you. I wasn't expecting anything to come out of you. You know what I mean? So, the innovations that it's just it's a natural occurrence of being marginalized. And sleep if you want,
It's interesting when you talked a little earlier about traveling and when you first started traveling and seeing there was such a demand for, the music of your friends, Slum Village and obviously the Platinum Pied Pipers and so forth. Was that a real big awakening for you when you started traveling? That was like one of the biggest takeaways, that changed your perspective about the way the world saw Detroit?
Absolutely. It's very, very often you have to judge yourself by how you see yourself. And very often you have to judge yourself about how others perceive you. And life's journey is somewhere about balancing those two things, about what you know about yourself and your potential, and then ultimately, sometimes when you doubt yourself and you see other people's response to what you've done, and you use that to kind of like validate yourself internally. So Detroit was very much that. Detroit only, we had a way of doing things and seeing ourselves, but not in the way that people did in foreign lands, I would say. So yeah, that was super enlightening to be able to to see how people were responding to these things that were just throwaway shits to us. You know what I mean? Like they didn't have. I was like, that's not even a full song. Okay, well, fuck it, let's put it out. You know what I mean? And so it's like, so yeah, it was super helpful. It was super helpful. But you know, it's that. But again, that's the fine balance as well, because at the same time, you know, it's like just even a word, just even separating Detroit techno from techno. You know what I'm saying? It's the same as some people will say female DJ to DJ. You know what I mean? It's
That's a really
like,
good point.
yeah, like yo, like you can't. I'm I'm the whole. I'm the whole thing. I'm the whole. I'm not part of it. I am. I'm the most important part,
A foundation.
the foundation. You know what I mean? So it's like, so under those circumstances, it's just kind of like, okay, well, you know, it's like, yeah, you listen, but you don't listen. You know?
Yeah, one of the that was actually to me actually was one of the biggest realizations by going to Detroit. I went initially for the Movement Music Festival you were playing at, and I remember
Well, yeah,
going to Underground Resistance record shop, which also housed right next door was your record shop, the Dirt Tech Records shop as well. And then not too far down the street was Moody Man's house, and I was just like,
right up the street is Motown,
yeah.
and now it's right down the street is the Underground Music Academy.
So is this the Music Academy that you're building?
Correct. Yep.
Can
Right.
let's hear about that. I wanted to ask you about that. You're working on that right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, have been. We've been at it for like the last 5 years. The last 5 years. So, the Underground Music Academy is a center for learning. That is, I'm the executive director, and again, we've been working on this space for the last 5 years. It comes out of the space of, or it comes out of the idea of every time I would get on the plane and arrive in Italy or someplace, you know, like these long weekends that I'm spending out in Europe DJing, I rarely saw a reflection of myself. Very rarely. I would rarely see someone my age or younger. It's very rare that I would be on a plane with someone that was going to do the same job that I was doing. And, you know, it's like it gets to the point where it's just like you start to see a system of things that are just not reflective of a really inclusive community in terms of dance and electronic music worldwide. So you get to a point where it's just like, listen, like I'm not going to continue to wait for this thing to descend upon me and just happen. I need to be active in making this space. So the Underground Music Academy our main focus is to create leaders of the new school. You know, leaders who are independent, deeply educated, you know what I'm saying, and deeply aware of our value inside of the space. And yeah, just the space to be able to give the tools and encourage the esteem of the next generation of producers for the world.
That's incredible, man.
Thank you.
And how far along are you guys, and what is the focus of what you'll be teaching?
Well, it's been about 5 years, but you know we're finally at a space now where you know we're meant to do some crowdfunding and start getting some help on this thing to get us past the point. And you know with COVID and everything that's happening inside of, to not be in a position to actually have students inside of the space, now this gives us the opportunity to actually start building curriculum and start thinking about what does it look like. So we want to build a relationship, we want to build a rapport, you know, online just via the next year or so, just giving away content. You know what I'm saying? Like this is what we're going to offer. You know what I mean? Like, and yeah, so it's like 2022 is the ideal time for us to actually open up the doors and start not just servicing our own community and small groups, because this is all about small scale change, but to start opening ourselves to remote learning and, you know, like make ourselves available for people domestically and internationally.
It's fantastic, man. I feel like the one thing that's so important in music is mentorship, and I think, you know, in the sense that, well, I learned from somebody and that person probably learned from somebody, and it's all this shared knowledge that ends up getting passed down. And there's all these like little tricks with music, you know. It's these skills that it's not like I mean, you can learn theory. You can go and like do the Royal Conservatory classical music, but if you learn music the way, like especially the best way I always learned was through my friends or through people that figured it out their own way and their way, and then was able to translate that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the two pillars of the school would be primarily DJing and production.
Okay.
And inside of those two pillars, that's where you learn the business or the grade A game that was taught to me and many other people about independence, manufacturing, copyright, publishing, licensing, all of these things that kind of like that introduce a level of. I'll say this: I decided to call it the Underground Music Academy. I decided to name it after you are. Underground Resistance, because that was the very first place that was one of the main places that I got my education in terms of just grade A game. You know what I mean? Like, so the very first introduction to my musical career was through Amp Fiddler, and so was with Slum Village. You know what I mean? Like, Amp taught us hands-on in his basement how to use the MPC 3000. All of these kids that were skipping school, you know what I mean, and right down the street from us was a fucking prison. You know what I'm saying? We were heading that way, but it took a person like Amp, who was on the liquor parliament at the time, you know what I'm saying, to guide us, to be like, okay, like, look, that's there for you, but so is this. And I remember him physically teaching us how to use that drum machine, and seeing him eat cool food, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he always had, you know what I'm saying, the coolest people at his house, you know what I mean? And it was just like, wait, so not only can I make music, but I can survive. Like, I can actually make a living out of this. So that was the first teacher. The second teacher was Underground Resistance. It's when I created the label Bling 47. And I had an idea. I knew what I wanted to do, but I had no idea about distribution. And between Mad Mike and his sister Bridget, they gave me all the game that I needed to do. You know what I'm saying? They gave me all the information that I needed to have. They distributed the records for me. You know what I mean? So we sold close to 20,000 of those records independently. You know what I mean? At the peak time of distribution and all of that. So it's like, and as much as it is about the future, like, we kind of have to recognize our past. And for me, Underground Resistance and countless other labels, you know what I'm saying, Planet E and all, I mean, I've just been given so much good game, you know what I'm saying, that it's important for me to put a certain amount of respect on the people that helped us get here. You know what I mean? So that's why I decided to call it Underground Music Academy.
It's incredible, man. I think that, yeah, the whole industry, dare I say it, is kind of set up in such a way that's prohibitive for a lot of people to be able to get their foot in the door, and even once you're in the door, it's hard to maintain. It's a very tough game, like
Tough,
but if you know, and I think that knowledge is real power, so that's an amazing gift to be able to pass on.
Yeah, it all comes back to how you see yourself. Like, it all comes back to how you build. It all comes back to the core of your being. You know what I'm saying? This is closer to professional sports than it is music. It has the same level of tribalism. You know what I'm saying? Like, people who go for teams for LA, like, they just go for LA. That's their tribe. You know what I mean? And even here, in terms of this, like, I look at myself more like a professional athlete than I do a musician. You know what I mean? Like, how often am I training? How often, how often am I, like, creating a result? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how often am I putting records out? Like, so I look at it more like that, as opposed to just how most people see it, like smoking some weed and making some cool songs and having, you know what I'm saying, a bunch of half-naked women around and shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what the fuck this is, man. Like, this is very much not that. You know what I mean? And what we do is, we provide, I feel like in these days and times, it's musicians that's keeping this fucking planet from falling off its axis, man. There's some evil fucking dark shit going on around here, man. You know what I mean? So in order to, I'm sorry to the parents of my students. that see this in the future. But you can see how passionate I am about teaching your younger. But yeah, I say, man, it's we're keeping the world spinning right now, just in terms of good vibrations and like celebration and like this. The job of a musician is the most important, or the job of a creative person at this particular time is more important than anything on the planet.
It's really really refreshing to hear your approach to, like, yeah, treating it almost like a like sports in a way. And like I've actually found that I've benefited the most from keeping a regular schedule with making music, or setting a goal, a simple goal, like make a song a month, or a song, so I can put something out at every quarter or something like that. That's really helped motivate me, especially because, yeah, like you said, you can approach it very casually and create when you feel like it. But having that sense of accomplishment is such an important part of music, and equally when you put it out, knowing that people appreciate that music, when you get that feedback back, is probably one of the most rewarding things as a musician. Would you agree?
For me, no.
No?
No. Knowing that I did it is more important than the feedback. I'm lucky that the feedback is normally great, you know what I mean? But I never read that shit. I never read the reviews, you know what I mean? Like I never put myself in a position where I'm susceptible to the opinion of the editor, or et cetera, et cetera. I always safeguard myself from that, because like I'm from a space, or from a place that's more than often painted in a certain way. So I do know that in order for a person to say a certain thing, that they're filling their own agenda. You know what I mean? So again, man, like I stay away from, it's rare that I even talk to press.
Right.
I don't do it. I just have no interest, man, in general. You know what I'm saying, about how people feel about it once it comes out. You know what I'm saying? I am making music, man, so I don't punch a motherfucker in the mouth. You know what I'm saying? When I go to the gas station, you know what I mean? Like that, at the core of it, you know what I mean? So, and that's also a big part of the school. You know what I mean? Like as a way of like to suppress, or use music therapy as a way to help people and create open dialogue. You know what I mean? Like so it's very important that, yeah, like I would say, like the beginning of my career and a lot of part of my career, like I've been told no so many times. Like like when we first, for example, when Dilla and I and all the crew in the basement started first really focusing on unquantized beats. People were like, "What the fuck are y'all doing? What is that shit?" You know what I mean? Like that one particular time, me and Dilla had done some remixes, and we had sent them off to a particular artist who I won't say their names, and they hit us back like, something must have happened with the file. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like something's off. It's shifted. You know what I mean? And even going back to Dilla's story about when he produced Running for Farside, and he did the drum programming. They went out and came back, and all the drums were erased because Fat Lip said that the drums weren't right.
Wow.
So I'm in a space where it's just like original thought, or original concepts, or new ideas have to be fought for before they become commonplace. You know what I'm saying? It's revealing the new truth. It's revealing a new idea, like the world is round instead of it being flat. And most people come at it in a way where it's like, no, it's round, it's round, it's round, it's round, it's round. Until they start getting until you're consistent with showing that it's round, nobody will believe this idea or this concept.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yo, you have to prove your own theories first. So that's why I don't give a fuck about media and all that shit. You know what I mean? I want to be ahead of the curve. That's how you always give yourself a job.
That's fascinating to hear. Even that's. Yeah, I mean, people didn't like the swing, but now that defines. It's like such an important part of hip hop music that is like, you can't even think about. I mean, the whole culture of just unquantized beats, like.
It's not even a conversation.
Yeah, really, you're right. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, people assume that it always was, but anything that is never always was.
Yeah, I remember that time specifically, and I remember, yeah, a lot of people just didn't like it. They couldn't kind of wrap their heads around it, I guess, or they didn't feel it, but
Mhm.
it gave it so much more personality and individuality and funk and feel. It's
That's it. Yeah, it made it it brought. I mean, and that all originated from James Brown.
right.
Like, Clyde Stubblefield. You know what I mean? So and we didn't know that he had two drum. We didn't know that there were two drummers playing. We just tried to emulate it the best that we could inside of the drum machine. And yeah, so it's like it's the shit that people that don't get. That's the shit I'm the most excited about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But again, I'm lucky. You know what I mean? People for the most part get what I'm trying to do and what I've done, and yeah, I'm lucky that way.
I have a really important question because it's a Serato tagline, but what does the power of music mean to you? You know, what does that statement, the power of music, mean to you?
Music is magic, man. Music is magic. You know, it's a force. It deals with so many physical things like like frequencies and like how people respond to it and people dancing physically. But music is magic, man. It's really a thing where some of the most relevant, important records in my life, I don't remember making. I remember being in front of a drum machine, applying myself. I remember those parts. It's almost like a dream. But when you do it really well, you don't remember anything because you've become a channel for ancestors, or you've become a channel for something that's greater than yourself. You know what I mean? Think about it. The idea of combining sounds, putting them in a composition, you know what I'm saying, arranging them, fixing the frequencies so that they don't bump into one another, you know what I'm saying, and releasing this thing. Something that you can't touch. You can only hear it. It's magic, man. It's true magic. You know what I'm saying? It's true magic. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's part of what I touched on one of my last projects that I put out with a deviation, called Hocus Pocus. It's just the magic of music. So I guess to answer your question, I mean, music does what religion can't. It does what politics can't. You know what I mean? It does what your mom and your dad can't. You know what I'm saying? It does what your parents can't. It communicates to you in a way that nothing else can communicate to people. And just to be able to see, conflicted places become one under the banner of music. Example, Berlin, when Jeff Mills and Mad Mike first took techno there, to see, there was a east side and the west side, and then this wall come down, and then everybody's dancing together. To see it do what politics couldn't, that's just magic, man. That's just magic. So music is magic. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, man, that's perfect. You can't answer better than that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a personal thing, and I think that's the beauty of it is, you have that first moment, and as a kid, and you're just like, what the hell is going on, and you can't describe it, but it takes you in, right?
Yeah, totally, man. I can remember hearing Parliament for the first time. It's like I told my mom that there was devils in the speakers. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Or hearing Kraftwerk for the first time, man. It was just like, what is this? Like, what is this? What is this thing that I'm listening to? So yeah, I totally agree, man. It's one of the most powerful things on the planet. I believe.
Yeah, I think definitely politically, what you say is so true, especially because a lot of the information that, going back to what you were saying about when we were talking about how a lot of cultural racism and white supremacy kind of can erase the legacy of so much music. If you really love music, you'll find those answers, and you'll find the truth through the music because the music doesn't lie.
Absolutely, yeah, man. I mean, it's so much bigger than us, you know what I mean? And just, I'm really humbled just to be a part of one of the, well-respected people from Detroit, from my beloved city that, like has been able to be the bridge. You know what I'm saying? My career has always been being the 100 BPM to the 125 BPM. You know what I mean? To combine all of these interests to get people to build together. Like, yo, man, this dude over here, or this my partner over here, is doing this and that. To bring people together. To further answer one of your questions that you asked me earlier, did I have to pick a side? Yes, I did have to pick a side, but I never wanted to. My heart was always in painting and music. My heart was always into hip hop and techno. You know what I mean? So it's like, to a certain extent, you have to pick a side, but eventually you're able to mend all of those sides together. And I can honestly say I was one of the first people to do it. When I put out Tron in the early 2000s.
Man,
yeah,
that's
that
the
was
jam.
that was the first effort that I had heard where a person took a hip hop perspective and put it into techno. So I've always been a person to bridge gaps, and like this education center, the Underground Music Academy, is just another manifestation of that. Putting paint where it ain't. You know what I'm saying? Putting George Clinton and Kraftwerk in the same elevator, as Derek May would say. You know what I mean? It's just a continuation of the same thing, just making some new shit.
Thank you again for being on this episode of Unscripted, and for your stories and sharing your perspectives. Also, I really want to thank you for making the remix for the Brothers Maklovich, featuring Levin Kali, Give Love to Get Love. I love that joint.
Back day one, what up, though? Yeah, big fans of those brothers, man. Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you for thanking me for that. Yeah, that was a lot of fun to do. I actually did 6 versions of that.
No way.
Yeah, I only let them hear 2. So yeah, hopefully we can release the other versions at some point.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's amazing. I play that one a lot, and I don't know if you've been on Twitch lately, but a lot of the DJs are playing it. Shout out to DJ Lindsay from New York. She loves that one.
Lindsay, what up, yo, Lindsay? Yeah, one of my favorite DJs, man.
Yeah.
Not female DJs. Y'all get that straight for fucking 2020.
Amen.
Not female DJs. DJ. Just a DJ, an amazing DJ.
Amen. Yeah, she's definitely been running that one and put me on. So yeah, and also thank you again for remixing the song I sent to you many years ago. I really appreciate that too.
That man, when did you do that?
I think it's out there somewhere. If it's not, we'll make sure it gets out there. But
okay, all right, cool. Yeah, man, that was an honor to do, man. And yeah, again, thank you, man. Like, you and OP are like G's to me, man. And I'm sorry that it took so long to catch me. I swear, man, it's hard to catch me, but once I'm caught, I'm worth the wait.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. But any last words that you wanted to share with anybody?
Yeah, what I wanted to say is that in an effort to support the Underground Music Academy, I'm putting out a new release, probably the latter part of September. It's called Acts of Love Mixtape, and there'll be 3 acts. And every month, September, October, and November, will be a different 4-song EP that I'm putting together. And all the proceeds go towards Underground Music Academy. You know what I'm saying? This is not just academy for Detroiters, man. It's an academy for the world and anybody who wants to sustain underground music.
We definitely got to thank Detroit for so much amazing music, and thank you for spurring the next generation with this school. So again, yeah, thank you so much, Waajeed. And yeah, make sure if anyone who's watching, check out the school. You can check it out at undergroundmusicacademy.com. Perfect. And where can they follow you if people want to check out your music and on social media?
Yeah, check me out on the gram. I'm on the gram all the time. So WAAJEED_.
Perfect. Will do. All right. Thanks again.
Yeah, bro. Thank you, man. Peace.
Peace, Waajeed.